Hello, everyone. Rideshare news is everywhere lately, but behind every headline is a real person. This story made me stop and think, and I want to share the lesson I took from it. Now, about a year ago, Uber and Lyft almost left Minnesota. Yes, the place where Prince is from, the former musician, that is. Everyone should know who that is. The reason this almost came to be was due to politics and policy. So, there was an ordinance that was in the process of being passed, and that would have increased the wages for the drivers to roughly $15.57 an hour, which is the state minimum wage. Now, to some, that may not be a big deal, but allegedly for Uber and Lyft, that was a real big deal. And as we know, for those out there that are rideshare drivers, and those that are not rideshare drivers. There's a lot of people that depend on Uber and Lyft for side hustles as a gig economy worker to make a living. And then you have those that have turned it into businesses, thus forming LLCs. Now, it could have been real dark in Minnesota if this bill would have passed. Why, you may wonder, or why, you may ask? Because it would have left a lot of families and a lot of people in mayhem and chaos because this would have came all abruptly. And though, from what I've read and gathered, they kind of knew about this for months. But it's different when you're being proactive and you're planning ahead and something that you didn't think would materialize does materialize. But this is where patient, delayed gratification and communications through the necessary parties is a real major thing. So what happened to make Uber and Lyft stay in Minnesota, you may wonder? Well, this is what happened. The powers that be, the politicians and the businesses, Uber and Lyft, they made a compromise. And the compromise consisted of a new bill being passed. And this bill was kind of down the middle. It was a compromise similar to New Jersey and Virginia, how they came to be to make the 49th and 50th state. So the new bill required the companies, in this situation, Uber and Lyft, to pay the drivers a minimum of $1.28 per mile and 0.31 cent per minute. Now, you all may think to yourselves, that doesn't really matter. That isn't much. But the thing is, it is much, in my opinion, and it should be in you all's because anything trumps a zero. Furthermore, rides that last 10 miles in 15 minutes will result in each driver being paid a minimum of $17.45. Now, again, I'm from the school of thought that some money is better than no money. And you all can tell me out there as drivers and those that are passengers or those who just contemplating on getting into the gig economy in the industry, if you all think that could be a lot of money over time. Now, let's say you're Jonathan or you're Mary. And let's say Jonathan or Mary, you already have a job. You know, you have your job set up to where you can just do 12 hours every day. So this is just all extra income, right? And now all of this is before taxes. So you already have your bills covered. You have minimal debt. So driving for Uber off a Lyft, you're just able to let your money accrue for the whole year. Let's just say that, right? So this is just working with $17.45. Just for the parties out there that believe that, hey, that isn't a lot of money. I need to make more than that. Okay, cool. I respect it. Well, that's $209.04 daily, $1,465.08 weekly, $5,863 monthly, and for the year, that's $70,000, 350 $70,358. And of course, this is prior to taxes. But that still is a good bit of money. Just imagine if you was able to do that. What would that do for you? And what that taught me from reading this article, that communication is vital. It really is. Because let's say these companies in Minnesota, the politicians in it, they were just to one extreme or the next. They were like, hey, it has to be my way or the highway. That's the great, Frank Sinatra once said in his song back in the day. But sticking with the topic, again, a lot of these individuals and families would have had a horrible Christmas because there's a lot of people out there in Minnesota that depends on Uber and Lyft. Yes, even when it's snow on the ground, even when it's cold outside. So much so, Uber and Lyft, the riders, they formed together and had an organization, and they were fighting for certain rights and certain opportunities. Now, again, sticking to the number I gave, $17.45. That's a good bit of coin. And another thing that I learned from reading that article is that people still have opportunities. People still can create situations if they want to make money. It's out there in Minnesota. I've never been to Minnesota, by the way, but reading that article, how it started initially to where like they were going to leave Minnesota and all the despair it was going to cause. I mean, just imagine. Imagine you having a business flowing. Let's say you been doing it so well and you've been going 2 years in, so much so you done built your whole client base. Let's say your client base just pays you cash and they pay you big bucks. They tip you extremely well. So much so you don't even have to go and get pe- people from the public. Like you don't have to go to the airport. Let's say you have not a Rolodex, that's old school language. Just let's say you had the individuals in your notepad on your phone or on your calendar somewhere, right? Let's say you had 50 clients. That means that you could build your schedule around X amount of clients a day. And it most likely would have been highly convenient for you and plausible for all parties involved. Now imagine that being stripped away. Then what? Yes, you all can have a backup plan, but it will still affect things, right? I believe so. But now that they came to an agreement, it seemed as though cooler heads had prevailed. It seems as though that they were truly thinking about the people and not just their bottom line. Now, let me retract that. They're always thinking about the bottom line. But they were also thinking about their base, the people that are helping them, these contractors, helping them make tons of money. And this is the thing. If they would have never came together and make that deal, it would have been a trickle down effect. And no one would have wanted that. If you enjoyed this story, stay tuned. There's more. And if you also enjoy these stories, um, feel free to mail me, excuse me, feel free to send me your mailing address, cash at me $30. The shipping will be free and I can ship you my book, Miles Behind Me, memoir from a former rideshare driver. All of the information is in the description. Um, and I'll talk to you all later. Peace.